So, Sarah, the pre-schedule release gift, of course, just to remind everyone, not that you need it, but here it is, was in the form of a contract extension for King Henry. The Ravens awarded him a 2-year, $30 million deal. It's $25 million fully guaranteed over the next 2 seasons. Todd France of Athletes First was the king negotiator here, and it's the largest deal in NFL history for a running back over 30 years old. It keeps him in Baltimore through 2027. And in terms of average annual value, he leapfrogged a number of his peers at the running back position and now sits third at $15 million per season behind, of course, Christian McCaffrey and the top dog and Saquon Barkley, who received his extension not long after the Eagles won the Super Bowl in his first year with Philadelphia. You found something on Dan Orlovsky. How are we going to tie all this in together?
Yeah, well, just as I mentioned last night, but I think it bears repeating, Derrick Henry was awarded the biggest deal in NFL history to a running back 30 years or older, which makes sense since he had the most yards in a single season for a running back aged 30 years or older. So almost 2,000 yards last season, 1,921. Tiki Barker back in 2005 had 1,860. Curtis Martin had 1697 in 2004, and then Walter Payton 1684 in 1984. So Dan Orlovsky and Peter Schrager were reacting to this news about Derrick Henry. Okay. And so it's about a 2-minute clip. I'm going to pause it a couple times because I think they make some good points. But then by the end, I'm like, I'm on to you, Dan. I'm on to you, Dan Orlovsky. I feel like I see what you're doing, and I don't want you to do it. But before we get to the very end, let's start with this. Their reaction to Derrick Henry and what this means for the Ravens roster. Peter Schrager is first.
See why they would invest this money in him, but do you have any issue with them investing this type of money, a 31-year-old running back?
If you're getting a free agent from another team at 31 and you're giving him this kind of money, you're really rolling the dice. They have him in the building. They know what they are getting. And so to me, it's the Ravens look at a window. We have what might be a process. I love this, and I also love Baltimore taking care of him. Let's not let this fester. We're seeing what's happening in Cincinnati with Trey Hendrickson. We see this happen a lot with veteran players where then you feel aggrieved. Like, you know what? We're going to get ahead of this. We're going to pay you now. You're going to be happy, and we've got you for the next 2 years, and you're being paid top dollar. Derrick Henry deserves every penny, and I love the.
Totally agree here, right, Bobby? Like, that's why I set it up. He got paid a lot. It was the most in NFL history for a quarterback or for a running back age 30 or older, but he showed that he was worth that by having the most yards. So I have no problem with the amount that they paid him. I think it was a fair market price, the value that he brings, what he showed the Ravens inside the building. He showed no slowdown, have no problem with the contract. Do you?
Absolutely not.
I didn't think so. Okay, let's keep going. I agree with him there. Let's get back.
You proactively taking care of him.
You said best roster in football? In your opinion, your thoughts, 1 to 53?
If I'm looking at all the losses from the Chiefs and the Eagles, yes, I think the Ravens, if I'm looking on paper, 1 to 53, the Ravens have the best roster.
I think it's the most interesting, fascinating, pressure-loaded team in the NFL.
Yeah.
Because the question gets asked all the time. We're years into this now. When are they going to get it done? What's it going to take? When are they going to get over the hump? And it's a really difficult question to answer. It's not, well, they got to be able to throw the ball better. Nope, that's good. They need more perimeter players. That's great. The candid answer is like, someone's got to make a play when it matters the most. It's almost like when will they get over the hump when they don't choke it away in a way. And I don't want to use that about a team,
no doubt,
an organization that I have such immense respect for. But it does feel like they get into those situations like, well, who's going to make the play to lose the game?
Dan, L'Jarius Sneed knocks the ball out of Zay Flowers' hand on the goal line 2 years ago. Last year, Mark Andrews, I know everyone's so triggered about talking about.
But two, like, they're great players.
These are great players.
Who are always clutch except for when they really needed them to be clutch.
And, like, if you're talking to a Ravens fan, like I'm saying they have the best roster in football, I know the Ravens fan, they don't want to hear that.
They don't care about it.
I don't want to hear about it anymore.
September, October, November, December.
Talk to me in February.
Okay, there's two different things going on here, Bobby. First of all, it's this chat of, like, when you rank all the rosters side by side, according to Peter Schrager, who I don't think is meaning anything more than what he's saying it's the best roster in football. I cannot honestly say I've gone and looked at everybody's rosters, but I would feel comfortable saying they've got to be top 5 in terms of rosters. Like, I like you've got all the returning offensive players. They were ranked number 1 in many offensive categories. The defense bounced back if they can pick up where they left off. You have one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Yeah, I think it's one of the best rosters. What say you?
Absolutely. I think Peter's best point that he made was not knowing what Philadelphia will be given their departures. They had an onslaught of departures because they couldn't pay everybody because they had that many skilled players, especially on the defensive side of the ball, that they either let walk or they did pay some, obviously. But I think that's a great point. Last year, for me and my money, it was between Philadelphia and Baltimore.
Right.
And I think that's still the case. You can put Detroit in that conversation. You, of course, can put Kansas City in that conversation. And maybe you can put Buffalo in that conversation.
Absolutely. So
but
I think
but I think we agree the Bills are not on, in terms of sheer talent, all 3 levels. While they beat them in January, the Ravens beat themselves. And so I would put the Ravens ahead of them in terms of sheer talent in all 3 phases. But why you might give Baltimore
I don't know about all 3. I can't speak to special teams. I mean, the Ravens just let go of what was the most accurate kicker of all time, and he certainly wasn't last year. So I don't know about all 3 phases.
If we're talking offense and defense, I'm confident. Special teams, the jury's still out, correct, because of Tyler Loop. We don't know who he's going to be. We don't know if he's the guy in his rookie season like Justin was years ago.
Yeah.
So
I would also just say this. Defense to defense, I still don't know either. I want to see what the Ravens defense is. If it's the defense of the beginning of last season, then no. You know what I mean? But I think they're going to be bounced back. I think that they will with the pieces that they added in the way that Zach Orr is going into his second year. So to me, I would still need to go down and look at the rosters and be like, okay, let me see for sure. But that's why I have no problem putting him in a top 5 in these in like a tier of the best rosters. But I do think that, Derrick Henry is better than Cook, even though Cook is no slouch, as the Bills fans tried to make us believe last year. They've got receivers, all that kind of stuff. So agreed that they have one of the best rosters. I also agree that a lot of times Ravens fans don't want to hear that. You don't want to hear it because it's just like, whatever, we've had one of the best rosters since 2019 now. And I think that is true. One of the best. I don't know that it was the absolute best, but certainly one of the best. And so it's like, whoop-de-doo, we have the best roster. And I don't know that it is the worst word for Dan Orlovsky to say that the Ravens have choked. I think that's essentially what Roquan Smith is saying, is we got to stop shooting ourselves in the foot. I mean, shoot yourself in the foot, chokes. I don't know. Is it the same thing? Seems like it's in the same arena.
Well, think about it. He tried to set that up as respectful as he possibly could. Yes, he said the word choked, and he said it on multiple segments. I just so happened to be watching last night, pre-schedule release. He was doing all kinds of different hits on different shows, and he said it a couple times. And yeah, I have no pushback against that. He said it respectfully, and they have choked.
Yeah.
It's just the fact of the matter.
That to me is the same thing as saying, you shot yourself in the foot. Okay, now the last thing that I'm on to. So Peter Schrager is like, yeah, I think it's the best roster. And then Jan had to really point that out. He said, did you say the best roster? Peter's like, yeah, when I line it up against the Eagles and Chiefs and their losses, yeah, I think it's the best. And he's like, okay. And I think he just wanted to make sure there's an extra point there about that Lamar Jackson may have the best supporting cast. And even if that were true, I don't think it should matter if Lamar Jackson himself is having an insane year, right? It matters if Lamar isn't having an insane year and other people are just picking up more of the load than Lamar. But to me, last year, it was irrelevant because they voted him the All-Pro, meaning he was the best. And then they used this backdoor kind of a way to play with the word value. And I brought it back up, what he said last year, because there was pushback on people like Dan Orlovsky and Emmanuel Acho and 4 others, where several of them admitted and said Lamar Jackson was the best, but stole it from him because he also had good teammates. Again, you can make an argument that other teammates are playing better, but Lamar Jackson, after winning 2 MVPs, played even better last year, and he clearly was still the straw that stirred the drink. Therefore, I don't think it was right to steal it. And I feel like he wanted to point out again that he's got the best roster so that he can repeat what he did last year, which was this.
For first team All-Pro.
And you voted for Josh MVP?
Yeah.
Okay, so then explain it to me. How did you differentiate those things?
The value that the player brought to their football team. The Bills were the number 2 seed. Josh had a 40 touchdown, 8 turnover, 14 sack season. The Bills didn't have an elite defense. The Bills had a very good run game, not a great run game. They didn't have elite perimeter players in any regard. The way that Josh played this season and the different style that he played brought tremendous value to their football team. Lamar's season was absolutely sensational. He was probably the best player in football this year, or Jamar Chase, or Saquon Barkley. But value and how much you impact your team, who you do it with and who you do it against, that's where I thought Josh Allen had the upper hand.
Interesting. We disagree on this side of the table.
Did he say most valuable player for his team? Is this MVP of the league or of the Bills?
Oh, gosh. So, I mean, I think I'm glad that we have Dan here to defend him and the people who did this, but it does feel like you're trying to split the baby. Like, you don't got the heart to say what you actually want to say. I think both of them had MVP caliber seasons, but it feels like you are trying to find some little semantics trapdoors. So you can give this to him and that to them, because you don't actually want to say what you really want to say.
Which is what?
Lamar Jackson had the best season this year. And maybe you could argue
but that's not the award, Don.
See, this is the semantics foolishness that we do. This is what you do. You say value. And the cool thing about value, it gives us on these shows a way to argue, because you can twist it and turn it any way you want. Normally, MVP means who's the best damn dude in the league. Yeah. And to me, obviously, Josh Allen had an MVP caliber season. But the best damn dude in the league this year was the guy who was first team All-Pro.
It for sure is semantics. So Shalize was the one on Twitter that kind of like pointed this out. I want to give her credit, but I do think that there's some validity here where she says, "Oh, Dan is starting early so he can say Lamar doesn't deserve MVP because the team is loaded." She's like, "I see you, Dan." So and I just fundamentally disagree with that. I mean, again, one of the reasons why the Ravens have, as Schrager said, the best roster is because of Lamar Jackson, because you have a 2-time MVP at the quarterback position. And so it's true. They were trying to split the baby. Let me give the best player award. They renamed it. Let me give the best player award to Lamar because he was the best, but I'm going to give value because what? Because it matters who you do it with? Come on. Lamar's season was clearly better than Josh Allen's, and it wasn't better because of his teammates. It's because he took it up another notch.
Dominique's face. I forgot he told me. Yeah, I forgot he told Dan to his face. He doesn't have any heart. You don't have any heart to tell us what you're really thinking, or whatever he said there was something. So yeah, that was from. They looked like they were in New Orleans then, so that must have been right after it was announced, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right after the All-Pro ballots were released, and then Lindsey Jones and everybody were like, "Wait, we didn't know that this was being released. Wow, it would have been nice to know." Well, would you have changed your vote if you knew that it was going to go public? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's never too early to look ahead. 2025 best odds to win MVP. Fox Sports graphic. This was Wednesday, May 14th odds. And look who is in pole position, lockstep with one another, tied for first. Best odds, Josh and Lamar, plus 550. Joe Burrow just behind them at plus 650. Mahomes, plus 700. Jaden Daniels, second-year player, sneaks his way into the top 5 best odds of plus 750. Jalen, Justin, CJ, Jordan, and Baker round out the top 10.
And Bobby, just real quick, I think what Dan Orlovsky is describing is more Jalen Hurts than Lamar Jackson. Like, Lamar Jackson is the straw that stirs the drink in Baltimore, whereas I can't say that for Jalen Hurts. Fantastic quarterback, right? Fantastic quarterback. But he is not the main thing that propels the Eagles. He's not, whereas Lamar is. And so I get it to some degree what, Dan Orlovsky is saying, or Emmanuel Acho when he came on our show and he admitted on our show, yes, Lamar was the best. but I didn't vote for him because of these value semantics. So, Jalen Hurts, fantastic, but it was clearly Saquon Barkley on their team. Whereas that was not the case in Baltimore.
I would agree with that take on Jalen from a full body of work standpoint collectively. But in the postseason, he has been exceptional. He's been elite.
Right, which is not the MVP award.
It is not.
Right.
But I think when you're looking at Jalen's legacy so far, he'll be remembered for what he's done in January. Even the year that they lost to Kansas City, he was elite.
Same as Joe Flacco. Same as Joe Flacco. That's why he got the name January Joe. Yeah. But he was never in contention for MVP in the regular season.
No,